Hello and welcome to another episode I never planned on doing. So this episode just kind of has been bubbling into my field, which is usually how the episodes come up. But it arose as something that I needed to share with you. And I needed to share it with you because it's about giving you permission to do things differently and to do things your way. And it feels vulnerable to share this because anytime I present something that's countercultural, or that is different, there's a part of me that is afraid that it's wrong because it's different, because I've been so socialized to just find my way into belonging as quickly as possible and not stand out. The truth is that in a lot of ways, I can't help but stand out. And yet I'm still, there's still a part of me that wants to kind of do things the way other people do them. And I kind of can't. Um, so with all of this emphasis on scaling your business and scaling it to 6 and 7 figures, I wanted to come in and share my story of why I didn't do that with my coaching business. And it's not because I don't have ambition. I'm ambitious like crazy, but I want to back up. I want to back up and sort of start from the beginning. So when I transitioned from being a trauma psychologist and a somatic practitioner with my brick and mortar practice into being a coach, I had a really big vision and I had big ambitions. Um, and in fact, I had seen, like, when I say that I had a big vision, I'd actually had a vision. I'd received sort of intuitive hits about what it was going to look like and what I was going to be doing. It was really sort of fleshed out. And this was when? This was before 2020. So around 2017, 2018, I'd had this vision and I'd been progressively moving toward the vision, like, getting up really early in the morning when my kids were still asleep, when the world was still asleep, and putting in 1 or 2 hours into my business, right? Whether it was like watching a YouTube video to like understand how to use this particular platform or how to, I don't know, some tech thing, right? And when I had this vision, I was really afraid because, there was a part of me that like loved to just hide and be in the background and like kind of like, oh yeah, don't bother me over here. And I could feel the part of me that also wanted to be well known in the industry. And that's the part of me that I began to nurture and stoke as part of like bringing myself out into the online space and into the world. And at that time, around 2018, I'd graduated from my somatic certification program. I knew that I had the education and the wisdom to lead, right? Part of what I'd been working on for those 4 years is really trusting my voice and trusting that I had the leadership. Um, yeah, and trusting what I knew, right? Like eradicating self-doubt, transmuting self-doubt into trust. And at that time, I also had the money to invest in support. And I moved from, group program to group program and business coaching that was going to support me and guide me through mostly like the tech, that I thought that I needed or the strategies to get myself out there. And, especially around 2020 when the lockdown happened, like the culture at the time was very much about scaling. And it was very much about like big business, right? Like boss bitch moves, big money vibes, all of that. And I was very caught up in that swirl of scaling to six and multi 6 figures. So, and it was intoxicating. Like the energy was like it was like high. Everybody was fucking riding it. And I saw everywhere that I looked, I saw people like, and there were just coaching programs helping people get to that place. And at some point in my entrepreneurial journey, I got to a place where I got to the precipice of that next level, where I realized that the next step was going to involve me hiring a team, like hiring people, building a team, managing that team, delegating, building standard operating procedures, right? So that I could step away if I needed to. And there was something in me, right? Something like a small voice in me that was like, I don't know. And there was a part of me that knew that it would come at a sacrifice to my family. And that was a sacrifice that I wasn't willing to make at that time because of, my co-parenting situation. Um, and even though I knew that I would have more support, right, by having a team, the management part would, I knew the management piece of it would eat up a lot of my capacity. And I also knew that like having people on payroll and having to like do that type of work or any of that, like just wasn't appealing to me. So it was kind of like that part of it turned me off. And then there was the aspect of my health and my body. So my body at some level was not willing to be in CEO boss bitch moves. Um, as a chronic illness survivor, there was a part of me that was like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not going to do that. My body intuitively knew there was a knowing that felt very much like a true knowing versus a fear response that I would have to sort of like bring my body into a level of holding that I knew that I could do, but that would be damaging, that there would be some cost involved to my energy and to my health. And so my body just knows what those things are. And even though I don't have necessarily the clear articulation of why that wasn't an option for me at that time, my body was just, it just gently said, mm-mm, no. And, then there was the aspect of my age, which is, you know, I feel like a lot of people in the online space don't talk about this. They don't talk, and next podcast episode coming up, we're going to be talking about menopause, money, and business. Anyway, let's talk about it a little bit right now. So there was the aspect of my age. I was already in my late 40s, and I could feel myself. I could feel the way that I used my energy. I could feel that shifting and changing. Um, I needed to rest more, right? I have a lot of energy, and I noticed that I needed to rest more and that I was slowing down in ways that felt really healthy to me. Um, I noticed myself needing to incubate a lot more, needing not to be so like out in the world. This was around, let's say 2000, beginning of 2022, when I noticed that I was no longer sort of like doing this, but needing to like, I'm feeling like this inward, right? And it may have to do or may not have to do with age, but I felt it was very much like just the time in my life, and it coincided with being almost 50. And yeah, just in short, everything that I knew that I would need to do to scale my coaching business, wasn't appealing to me. And when I talk about my coaching business, I specifically mean my solo coaching business, because I think that what I need to mention to you as part of this conversation is that what was being promoted was the CEO at the top model, right? Where it's just like solopreneur, boss bitch, rich bitch money vibes, um, that kind of a coaching model, sort of like a putting, if you're watching this on video, my hands are forming a pyramid because, a lot of people have talked about the solo coaching model as being a little bit of a pyramid scheme, right? Where it's like, we like thrive, or we basically siphon money from more coaches needing these services, and whatever. I'm not going to get into it here, but you know what I'm talking about. So at some point, I like as I could feel my body saying no, uh, I stopped investing in support. So I kind of said, you know what? I'm gonna stop here and see where I land. And then after I stopped investing in support, shortly thereafter, I also stopped wanting to launch. And I had just started this like polyamory, program, like it was called like I don't know what it was called. I forget what it's called, but it was just kind of like I had the turn on event, the opening event, and the intention was to, send a series of emails, inviting people into this group program and supporting people in learning how to navigate those, opening their relationship if they were brand new to polyamory, right? So really like valuable service and somatic and conscious communication, all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of like it kind of like left the desire, just kind of left my body. And so at that moment, I was like, wow, well, I'm gonna have to do something because I need to make money, but I don't want to like keep finding clients in this way, like, opening and a free event, having a free event, and then bringing people in through that, and then having them be part of this launch or program. So I stepped back, I leaned into more therapy style services, right? So I wasn't, chasing leads anymore. I was just kind of like, yep, I put my profile up on, you know, uh, um, a search website that is designed for therapists and psychologists. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to rest for a moment and figure out what this is about, right? What the next steps are, because I kind of reached this place where it was like, no, but I didn't also have what was next. So I was just like, okay. And it felt really great for a while. Like it felt great because money was still coming in. I didn't, right? Like I said, I didn't have to chase leads. I didn't have to find clients. They were coming to me easily. And that was like, wow, that's a lot less effort than what I've been putting in. And I was like, oh, this is really nice. And then, and that felt really good. And part of what felt really good was that I loved the feeling of like I loved the smallness of my business. I loved that I kept the intimacy in my work instead of focusing on being out there. I was like, oh no, this is really like, you know, connection with my clients, not running groups of 30 people. And it just felt really good to me. And I know that there's so many ways to scale your business without losing that sense of intimacy. But again, it would have involved paying a team, and I didn't want to do that. And one thing that I discovered from that period of time where I was sort of in this limbo of no, but I don't know what's next, was that I discovered that part of my desire to scale was coming from an ego-driven place. Was part of there was a part of me that wanted to get really big and be a leader and be well known. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I could feel the part of me where it was ego driven, where I wanted to be seen and I wanted to be liked and I wanted to, you know, and that's where like I feel like when I unconsciously noticed that, that's when my body was like, let's hold on just a second and let's take a step back. So that was part of it. And so I'm really grateful to my body and to my intuition and to whatever else was like, whatever other part of me was noticing that so that I could be in integrity. And then the other part that I've mentioned before is that I was tired of solopreneurship. I think that part of my no was like, I don't want to be at the top. Like, I don't want to be at the top and alone because that just like felt kind of like, yeah, like I'm alone a lot. And I think that I was moving like with the awareness of moving from that hyper independent, I can do it all from, oh, I want to do it in community. I want to do it with other people. I want to be part of a group, and be co-creating with other people so that I was shifting out of this individualistic kind of model of doing business into a collective model. So, and that was just shifting organically. I didn't like necessarily intend for things to go in that direction, but it was just like, it was just part of my noticing that desire and moving from that like no, and not really knowing what my yes was yet in that moment. So just listening to the no, following the no, having that weird interim kind of limbo period where I didn't know like, okay, well, what's going to happen next? And then feeling that desire to like, oh yeah, like other people. Yeah. And another element that I want to speak to, and I've spoken about this before, and a lot of my containers and a lot of what I was supporting people with was like getting out of their comfort zone and being in discomfort and being part like growing as an entrepreneur. And I'd been out of my comfort zone for a long ass time. Um, and I've said before, like especially if you're in business, if especially if you're in a spiritual business, it's gonna bring up all of your shit. And part of the entrepreneurial journey is taking the opportunity to heal those things that come up. And I did a hell of a lot of healing around my visibility. I did a hell of a lot of shadow work. I refined my messaging. I found my voice, like even anchored even deeper into my truth. Marketing and sales became fun for me instead of like being like, oh, I'm putting myself out there and sales. And I felt super empowered and confident, right? Full of conviction about my value and my passion around how I serve people and how I support, um, evolution, collective evolution, all those things, right? And then there's a place where I was like, okay, that's enough. Like I don't want to like keep doing that. Like it felt I was kind of like done with the discomfort and not from a place of, oh, I want to be comfortable and I don't want to be uncomfortable anymore. It wasn't like that, but it's like my co-parenting relationship was so uncomfortable. And then on spiritual entrepreneurship was uncomfortable. And it just became like, wow, I'm just I've just developed so much skill and resilience around being uncomfortable until I was kind of like done. It was like, you know what? That's enough. I've decided it's okay to be comfortable. Um, and you get to decide when when it's time to heal something and when it's time to heal something through your business and when it's like, you know what? It's just no, we're not doing that. It's just going to be easy. We're just going to skip over that part. So that was that, right? Like just being in so much discomfort and really like accessing so much in resilience and skill, right? Like I was really in that resilience work and it was great for me. Like it was like mega capacitation time. And then when my ex-husband died, it really shifted the course of my life. Like, and I'm not saying like the decision to not scale had already happened like a year prior to that. But his loss shifted, or rather deepened, my priorities around keeping things really manageable and simple and grounded. And by that time, I had already, like, I was about 6 months into my finance business, and that was, that obviously was really, it was an answer to my prayers around being part of a team, working collectively, leveraging leveraging a team, right? So scaling, but not doing it in a solo way. And this finance business also uses a lot more old school methods for connecting with people, like like just calling them on the phone, for example, reaching out to people which felt really, really good. It just felt good again that there was like that intimacy piece to it. Um, and you know, yeah, there was the intimacy piece. It felt really about like connection and don't get me wrong, and I love automation. I love sort of the simplicity of knowing like emails are being sent out at a certain time and I don't have to worry about that. Right? It takes a load off. But I also really like the personalized experience that I got to express through the finance business. And the model that collective model that I work in finance has challenged me in ways that I didn't expect because I noticed the parts of me that were kind of individualistic, right? Like as I was shifting from solopreneurship into a more collective model, I was just kind of like, oh, I'm sharing what I get paid with this other person. Like it brought up some shit for me. So that felt like the work that I needed to do in that moment of like transitioning from individualistic models of working into collective models of co-creation and working and even how we get paid. So, um, and then on top of that, because the finance services that we offer are free, right? We don't charge a sitting fee like most financial professionals do, right? In the traditional financial services industry, it shifted me from a mindset of like, every interaction has to be paid, right? Like, you know, every hour is a paid hour. Um, and so it really challenged me to let go of the idea that money needed to be exchanged. So, and it shifted me more into like just being of service and letting go of the outcome that money was going to be on the other side of that interaction. So that's something that I wasn't expecting at all. And I discovered that I love offering people something that is free with no strings attached. And that I feel is disruptive in a world where there's always that quid pro quo, that expectation of monetary exchange, and that it's often couched in um, this idea of like, your time is money, and yes, my time is absolutely valuable, and I do want to set boundaries around that, and I do set boundaries around my time. And yet there's something freeing. There's something that is opening about just offering knowledge and information to people who need it. And I want to share this. Like I feel like part of the motivation for sharing this is really like the I feel like the what's underscoring, or what's underneath this episode is the uncolonization, right? Uncolonization from the traditional coaching model. And so what I want to offer again is like is permission to not scale, permission to not have coaching or healing or group coaching programs, anything like just coaching in general, be your sole income. It doesn't have to look the way it does in the industry, right? In the field. You can have it be just one piece of your business or one portion of your income, let's say, right? And there's other episodes about multiple streams of income. Listen to that. It's great. Um, but yeah, really thinking about just doing it differently and doing it your way, and that, you can be a healer and also like and a coach and a mentor, whatever you want to call yourself, and you can also be of service in another industry. You can be of service in another area, where you can express your passions, right? Like you can have a coaching business and, or you can have a business running retreats, and you can have a business that's like where you do like, I don't know, children's photography, for example. And that maybe both have a theme around being seen, but that you get to express a part of your creativity in different ways, and that you get to offer maybe a healing experience even through the photography work, you know? I feel like there's because of where we are sort of in this economic climate, there's a lot of healers that have gone back into 9 to 5 jobs, um, and right into a variety of different sectors. And so what I want to say about that is that, you can still be a healer and, you know, exercise or express what you've learned in those settings, in those business settings. I think it's still revolutionary to show up in an embodied way, or to bring a level of awareness and conversation and I don't know, I'm sounding vague as I say this, but for example, like I used to have a mailman who was really amazing. And yeah, he delivered the mail. He was always on time, blah, 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 blah. But he was also like this incredible human being. And when he delivered my mail, he would like talk to me about the flowers in my front yard and make recommendations about like, you know, my gardening, because he was also an avid gardener. So like he had this passion that went beyond, delivering the mail, and he expressed that, and he talked to people about what he was passionate about. And for me, having him as my mailman was a healing experience. I've had that I've had that with people at, car rental places where the energy of that person was so like, it just touched me so deeply. Like the way they attended to me, the way they served me felt like a healing experience. And so, if you are someone who is diversifying your income, if you're someone who, if you are a coach or a healer or a mentor, and you also have another job where you're not necessarily doing that type of work specifically, like please trust that that is good for the world also, and good even for that sector of business, because how you show up really, really matters. And not everybody is designed to scale their business to 6 figures. That is not for everyone. And to uphold it as where you need to get to, I think is really just toxic and um not helpful. Not helpful. And you want to be careful in, when you're moving towards that, to really be in integrity, not only with your capacity, um, with your desires, but like what's really, really good for you and obviously for your family as well. Because, honestly speaking, it's something that I could do, but it would be out of integrity for me energetically. It would be out of integrity for me. Just I know that I wouldn't like it. Eventually it would like be something that I would have to burn down anyway, because it would be unappealing to me in the long run. And I'm glad that I caught it, you know, before I got there. So yeah, that's it. It's really about permission to have your coaching have your coaching business be just a small portion of your income and that it's still impactful. It's still impactful. So, yeah, that's it. So, I would love to hear if this is relevant to you, if this is a fuck yes to you, and that this gives you even more permission to do whatever the fuck you want to do in your business.